Welcome to another episode of Inside the Bag. I'm Ahmed Gafir here, joined once again with Mason Viner, and we have a special guest with us today. Dan Crowley of the Best Is Ahead Foundation joins us on the show. Dan, appreciate you taking some time with us.
Yes, of course. I'm really happy you guys invited me. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know it's been a busy first couple of months for you. Obviously, the TBIA Foundation was announced and launched in late summer, going into the 2022 season. So, obviously, with the season in the rearview mirror now, players kind of preparing for spring ball. How has the progress been for you on your end?
Sure. Yeah, I think the progress is great. We probably launched a little later than we expected. Launch date of September 21st. It's good and bad. The good part was we were 3-0, right? So we just came off a great win against SMU. We're going into a week up at the Big House and had a Wednesday reception right before going to Michigan. So, we had Damon Evans, we had Colleen Soren, we had some people from Maryland attend, and I thought it was a really nice kickoff to what we were doing for the Maryland football and the Best Is Ahead Foundation. So that was good. I know the players had a lot of questions, right? So although we didn't launch until September 21st, I was certainly down at several practices each week during August, so the guys could see my face, talk to them a little bit, but really just so I could get to know, how they looked in practice, talk to them a little bit at dinner afterwards in the cafeteria, and then just so that we were time to tee up the launch, it wasn't completely new to everybody. So I thought it went well. Gave me a chance again to get to know the guys during the season. And then we had our first event with a few players during the bye week in October. And that was a lot of fun because it was new to all of us, right? And I think it's pretty clear to everybody now that the Best Is Ahead Foundation is 100% service oriented. So, our goal is to get out in the community, enhance the lives of underserved youth in the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore metropolitan areas. So that October event was just that. We went to a local elementary school, and it gave a few of those players a little taste of what was to come. And since the season's ended, these last 60 days have been quite busy for us and the players. And we've done deals now with over 30 current players. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome, Dan. When you hear about NIL in the national news, some coaches have said it's going to take a ton of money to do it. Others have said it's not. What are the goals of the TBIAF Foundation, and how is Maryland's approach to some of the numbers that are just being thrown out all over the place?
Sure. So there's a couple of questions in there. So first and foremost, the numbers are big, and they're going to continue to be large until somebody puts some legislation on the amount of money that these athletes can be paid. So there's nothing we can do about that. One thing, when I get in front of the players and I'll have them in my car on the way to an event, I'll have some time before an event or after an event, and we'll have some dialogue and just ask, what do you guys think? What's your thought on some of these other schools? And I always tell them, don't always believe what you read. And it's not just about NIL. Don't ever always believe what you read, right? Do some of your own research, ask some questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. So for us, the number doesn't matter to me. We can only control what we can offer these players. And thus far, I think we've done a tremendous job in fundraising. I think the Washington, D.C. metropolitan market has so much to offer to these guys. So it's not always going to be about TBIAF and what we can offer these players. There's going to be many other marketing opportunities, and there already are, right? We've seen, the Rakim Jarrett example I always talk about. He had a national Under Armour commercial, and there were a few other Maryland athletes in that commercial. That will continue. There's no stopping that. I certainly am all for that. I'll help the athletes in any way I can get those marketing opportunities. But when it comes to the Best Is Ahead Foundation, again, we are service oriented, and Coach Loxley always talks about life after football. Make a difference in your community, and you're building your own resume so that when you finish playing, whether it's your finished playing days here at Maryland or you have an opportunity to go to the league, your time's going to come to an end, most likely in your 20s, whether you finish at Maryland or finish in the NFL. And the Best is Ahead Foundation is just going to create another resource for you to build that resume, get out in the community, make a difference in young people's lives. But what I'm really noticing from these appearances is the players are learning a lot themselves. Whether it's going to an elementary school, whether it's going to a museum, which we did last week, whether it's going down to the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and seeing all of the different aspects of what police officers do. It's not just about writing tickets and citations and arresting people. They're also making a difference in young people's lives, right? So the players that I have taken out really have grasped that concept, and it's exciting for me to see, and we have a lot to offer.
Yeah, and I I like to hear that, Dan, and I'm kind of curious, just with the way that TBIA's foundation is set up, obviously just being able to connect with the youth and the community and whatnot. And one thing I remember hearing, going into last season, was just the need to reinforce and build the brand loyalty and the I guess the affinity at a young age. Especially within the DMV, with just so many professional teams prevalent, and Maryland obviously have to compete with that. So I guess when TBIA Foundation, when it was kind of getting set up, did you guys look at the possibility of saying, hey, we could potentially be touching the wave of the next Terrapins in 10, 15 years, and seeing that as a potential a benefit in the foundation?
100%. That's exactly what we were looking at, right? So I'm from the area. I grew up, born and raised in Washington, D.C., grew up in Largo, PG County. So I'm a product of this area.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that our competition is not collegiate sports in this area. Our competition is professional sports, right? We've got 3 major sporting events going on all year round. That's our competition. So you're exactly right. Our goal here is to get out in the community. NIL has given us this opportunity, and we're going to take full advantage of that opportunity. We have 115 players on the roster. My goal is to do a deal with every player, have something to offer these players to get them out in the community so that, yes, we'll touch that young person's life, touch that family's life, because there's many other college towns in America that you are born and raised to watch that basketball or football game at 6 years old at the kitchen table, right? That's your discussion. And how can we make a small difference within what the NCAA has provided us, this NIL opportunity. So yes, there's a monetary number that you can offer, but there's much larger opportunities that we can offer in getting out in the community. It's gonna pay off tenfold. I truly believe that. It'll help with butts in the seats. Yeah. Winning is not the end all be all. Winning helps. And Coach Loxley has won the last 2 years. That is going to pay off come next football season. But I really, truly feel that now, because of these players having an extra edge to get out in the community, that's going to pay off as well. So we're going to get really creative here during the spring, find out how we can make it really exciting for fans to come out to CQ Stadium this fall. Winning last year is going to help. Winning during the season is going to help. But what other avenues can we provide that consumer?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know obviously NIL can't be used for, to induce, commitments and whatnot on the recruiting show, but obviously you can kind of tell recruits, say, hey, this is what we have to offer. This is how players benefit, things like that. So I'm just curious, like how, down the stretch, how frequent were you involved with a lot of recruitments or whatnot, or how does the TBIA Foundation kind of factor in? Is there any portion, an official visit weekend per se, where there's any presentation, for example?
Sure. Yep. Good question. So again, being so new and launching in September, I think we held off on the recruiting aspect during the season. But yes, I certainly have an opportunity to play a part during recruiting weekends now. I will continue to do that. Now it's all about the transfer portal, and are there going to be other transfers that can come in? And yes, myself, Jeff Leventhal, my partner, we definitely have that opportunity to come down and present to a recruit and their families. And it's really about, what we're talking about today. Where did we start? Where do we come from? Where are we at today? And where do we see ourselves in the next year or two? And that's exactly what I would tell the families. is explain that, and again, explain the metropolitan area and the opportunities, and understand it's not all about the dollar immediately. There's a lot of other opportunities in the summer internships and so on and so forth. But the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. The NIL collectives and foundations certainly play a role in those recruiting weekends.
Dan, when you talk about starting up the foundation and all that, and everything that's going on with college sports, how hard is it to really navigate this with no guidelines? You're basically setting your own standard. Have you reached out to other foundations and collectives out there and tried to see what they're doing, or partner with them on kind of creating any sort of governance for it? Or is it just the Wild West, that just true, everyone's out there doing it for themselves?
Right. So everybody uses the term the Wild West, and that's kind of what it looks like from the outside. And it probably is what it feels like on the inside, because it is so new, right? We're just a couple of years into this. And I think every institution and every collective is trying to take advantage in any way they can. Yes, I've certainly, reached out to some other counterparts, many of them, especially before I opened the business. I talked with many, many people. And now that we're involved in this, I try to have a call a week just to see if people are willing to share. I've got some friends in the business, so I have a few that I talk to regularly. But I'm always searching and trying to reach out to see what other people are doing. I can easily read some articles, but again, with like you say, the wild, wild west, with the legislation so wide open, it's up to each individual foundation, institution, collective. It's up to you to be as creative as possible. And what can you do to take advantage of this? And again, being in this market, we've got a lot of opportunity. But I also, being only 5 months into this, I've got some short-term goals here that we still need to hit. Fundraising is very important and a key to this success. And I think with the announcement this week, there were a couple of good articles that came out from the University of Maryland, really to showcase what we're doing, not just with the Best Is Ahead Foundation, but the Turtle NIL, and what Maryland's doing as a whole. That's what the public needs to hear, right? Is that you've got the institutional support. And then it's not just the wild, wild west, that we're in this together. We're going to be a partner, and we're going to continue to get creative, make this thing as best possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on it, to have that admin approval. And obviously it feels like, over the last 12 months or so, just the shift within the university, within the athletic department, has really changed to, where at first it was kind of, hands off to see, how everything plays out, what the rules and regulations are. Whereas now, there seems to be a lot more, pro and just kind of accepting NIL and realizing how the university can kind of help with using their power to maximize it. I'm just curious, because I know obviously football, basketball, I believe lacrosse also, they all have their own NIL collectives, or foundations, excuse me. But I'm just curious, just obviously all being under University of Maryland Athletics umbrella, even though everything is kind of separate, how frequently do you guys collaborate or kind of work with each other, especially just kind of navigating through all this?
So I certainly work with the administration frequently, right? I've got the compliance office on speed dial. I'm going to make sure we're doing things the right way. As far as the other collectives within the University of Maryland, I think we're just starting to begin some of that collaboration, especially now during basketball season. It's always good to have winning programs. So if we've got these NILs set up for individual sports, when all those sports win, we all win. And that's what we need to do. And again, NIL, because of this transfer portal, the mission's clear and simple, right? You got to keep your roster intact, and then you've got to recruit the transfer portal and get the right players in here. So I think we did a great job, I thought. We might have lost a couple of players from the football team, but not like in years past, not like other schools. There's coaching changes happening everywhere, and there's key players leaving. I think Coach did a great job this year. I'd like to think we played a small part in that, just to show the recruits and the transfers that, hey, we're doing this the right way. And if you come here, you're going to have many opportunities. So it's, I'm all for other sports having these collectives, and I can only see us working more and more in the months to come. So I think by the fall, we're going to have a pretty good plan in place on how we can all collaborate, work together, because we're all talking to the same people, right? We're talking to the diehard Maryland followers, graduates, and people that want to see Maryland win. When I go to basketball games, I'm seeing the same faces that were at the football games, right? And that's what we need, and we just need more of them.
Dan, when you set out and started this, what is really the long-term mission? I know we've talked a lot about grassroots efforts, getting involved in the local community. What is the vision of the foundation? What do you hope to see in 5 years or 10 years out?
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough prediction because there's so many moving parts right there. I think the answer that I have given recently is I want to have something sustainable where we can have a model where we're good for the next 3 to 5 years. And then to the last question, how can we collaborate with each other, not just as collectors, but as the university? Right. My background is development. I've been in college athletics for a number of years. I know how important fundraising is. I know how important sponsorships are. And instead of all of us going and talking to the same people and going in different directions, the model that I see is if we can become sustainable, raise enough money, and have deals in place for these guys for the next 3 to 5 years, I think at that point we can all work together and come up with another model that really takes Maryland to the next level, so that we're all talking the same language, talking to the same people. It'll take sponsorships to another level. It'll increase the marketing of the university, and then the wins come. Right? We all know that if you have butts in the seats, that 12th man, there's nothing else like it.
Absolutely. And Dan, obviously, as you get everything up and running, fans can go over to tbiaf.org in order to donate. But I think, fans, especially in the recruiting world where, you're competing with, the Alabamas and the Georgias and whatnot. I think, you touched on it, being able to kind of tap into the market to the DMV and, you see a lot of the same faces. But I guess in order for, to be able to reach that new height and to kind of continue to ascend the foundation to where fans want it to be, in your eyes, I guess, what can the average fan do beyond donating to the collective?
Come out to the games, right? That's the biggest thing. Again, butts in seats. I just saw Brenda Fries had another incredible attended game. I wish I were there. I've been to 2 games thus far, but we've got so many great coaches with so many different sports, and they just need people to come out to these games. I think that's the biggest thing that I can ask. And then when they come out, we have to do a good job internally of providing them something other than just clapping your hands and cheering for the game, right? Especially in football. Football has so much to offer. There's so much else going around on the concourse, outside the stadium, inside the stadium, on the field. And that's what I ask. We had my first year last year, I thought it was well-attended games. I thought the students did an amazing job coming out to each and every home game. It's always talked about, are the students going to stay after halftime? I looked up every third quarter. I saw a good number of students up there. We just need to pack the house a little bit better next year. I think because of the success on the field, it'll help. I hope that the success that we're having off the field with these different foundations is going to really excite people to get a whole new kind of fresh set of faces out to the games next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll get a chance to watch Talia in action again next year, and a lot of new faces, whatnot. But definitely kind of building on the 8-win season, the consecutive bowl wins. So it's things are trending well. But Dan, we definitely appreciate you taking some time with us, navigating through the wild west, as we like to call it. But we look forward to seeing how the Best of the Head Foundation continues to grow. Again, fans can go donate to tbiaf.org. Dan, appreciate it again.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.